Hello my friends, this is Crimea. Yes, again video about Crimea, because the most hot events are happening out there. If we not speak about the front lines, but about kabooms, Ukraine is damn serious. And this is Sevastopol, my hometown actually. I was born there. Well, I never really lived there for a long time, but it was my summer vacation destination, and seeing it like that for now, well, I have some of the mixed feelings, but I understand that it's the Russian Navy base now and their headquarters and everything. So what Ukraine does there, of course, is not against the locals, but to cut logistics, supplies, and some of the infrastructure for the Russian military first of all. And this was the power plant that was hit, and also some of the storage. We have 1 to 3 of the kabooms in the same place, and Sevastopol was left without electricity, the main Russian Navy hub. And this is the latest photo from Kerch. The fire there continues in the oil port. All of the tanks were kaputted because the wind blew to the proper direction, and all of the tanks were finished. So each tank went on fire. This continues there for already the 3rd day. And moving back to Sevastopol, you may see one more photo confirmation of the local power station, which is not in service any longer, and Russia will have to spend lots of the time to fix that. Plus we have some of the new fire detected by the firm satellites near the Kerch bridge, so this is the military base of the Russian army. It went on fire as well. Those are the geographical coordinates, and this base was not that far away from Kerch. And this is the central part of Crimea, Simferopol, Gvardeyski military airfield, and commercial airfield is also not that far away, but Russia had the separate storage for the munition. It was also cancelled. And this satellite image shows the oil plums coming from the kaboomed oil port in the Kerch Bay, and you may see that the Kerch bridge is also not that far away. Oh, this is a very interesting image. It shows the precondition before the strike of Ukrainian drones. This is the substation of Sevastopol that was zeroed yesterday or the last night. You might see the coverage by the nets, and nets, they do not help. I've told about it many times on this channel. So nets, they're the good protection against small FPV drones, but against heavier drones like FP2, FP1 or something else, they do not help, and the result of the strike was visible on the first image that I showed you. So substation is no longer valid to operate. Can I tell this kind of the term? So Russia definitely needs to put some sort of the cage all over the facility, but just imagine how difficult it is really to build that construction like sarcophagus over all of the Russian energy infrastructures. Simply Russia doesn't have resources and time for that kind of the construction build, and Ukraine uses vulnerability of Russian infrastructure, hurting it very hard. And my friends, I'm sorry about telling it in every video, but it is very important for this channel growth and for boosting video in algorithms. So please support this channel with your like. Just like this video right now while you're watching it. And also subscribe for the channel. It is for free, both of those two actions. It will cost you some of the time, to press it, but it really helps. So thank you for your likes and for your subscriptions. My friends, also if you can, you may support my job on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below, or join membership of YouTube channel by pressing button join. Obviously if you can. But with support on Patreon and membership of the channel, you are making this content possible. Without it, I wouldn't be able to film videos every day, sometimes 2 times per day. So guys, you are amazing, you are awesome, and thank you. Let's continue with the video. The situation with the Russian supplies looks like that. All of the trucks are being hit. Those are not just commercial trucks. Russia sends absolutely everything in those lorries, and this one was even unmarked. You see, no any banners on the sides. Kind of the suspicious vehicle, I would say, and the Russian firefighters are trying to eliminate the fire. They have to do it not just with the truck, but with the local field. Probably the same vehicle. Just from film from the different car. Oh, this is the symbol to support the Russian world, Russian peace. But why is it that small inside the vehicle, such a tiny one? They should put it on top of the vehicles. I mean, all of the Russians who support Putin, SMO, plus Ukrainian traitors who support Russian peace, they should put those flags like that on the vehicles for Ukrainian drone operators to define who is who.
Вот, в один момент шарах, и все.
Do they try to go across the fields, or maybe this vehicle went on fire and decided to go to the field to burn down a side of the main road? It's hard to say, but definitely it's here. The main road is near. The Wagner song, they still play it. Come on, Wagner is no more. Prigozhin was kaput. Just yesterday we celebrated the 3rd anniversary of the failed military coup of Prigozhin. But you still listen to that shit? Лето арбалеты Вагнера подъедут. Come on, look at what you film. Where is Wagner army? Yeah, gas station is no more, I wonder why. Yeah, one more truck is cancelled by Ukraine. And this is mix altogether, gas station and a truck. Guys, there are so many videos like that. Every day they're being published once again and once again, every few hours, I would say. And I'm speaking about it, continue to do it because there is the change, a massive one. For the last 1 month or maybe 2 months, Ukraine has increased those attacks dramatically. And it has never been like that before, and it's the new story for Russians. They cannot handle Ukrainian drone middle strikes, they cannot protect Crimea, and the most interesting thing that Russia is calm about it. I mean, the Russian military command, Russian management in general, they're not even communicating with people, and they want to attack even more, but how? The only direction where Russia propels with some of the limited success is Konstantinivka, and they will occupy Konstantinivka. But it is only possible because they deployed forces there before massively, and they also have a short supply shoulder. First of all, from the M4 road, which goes in parallel with Ukrainian territory, M4 from Rostov-on-Don to Moscow, and it is still out of reach by Ukrainian Hornet drones, while Ukraine is working on new types to increase the range, of course, but to waste FP1, FP2 for those trucks, no. Ukraine has way more juicy targets deeper inside the Russian territory, and simply Ukraine doesn't have enough FP2, FP1 drone production to nail every truck. So it's not possible for now to cut all of the supplies, but Ukraine is working on that. And that is the main advantage of the Hornet drones, because they're very easy to manufacture, they're smaller, just the range is limited with the middle strikes, but I am sure that they will be more effective in the future. It's interesting that most of the kabooms are happening to the vehicles equipped with electronic warfare systems. Like, for example, this is not the baggage which they carry on top. This is the place for the electronic warfare. Nevertheless, it doesn't work. And this one too, 1 to 3 already, yeah? That's the new generation or something. 1 here. So it doesn't mean 3, 1, how many here? Like, it doesn't help. Oh, this is the checkpoint of the Russian army. Maybe Russians are just carrying their suitcases there, or Russian command put those boxes to make sure Russians feel alright, defended, then they go on those vehicles, but there's no actual protection. Lots of the systems, you see, 1, 2, 3, probably different frequencies, something else, but yeah, it's always like that. And if before I saw that sometimes they're working, like there's some of the distortion of the signal, but now not any longer like that. Electronic warfare and the vehicle kaboom, electronic warfare, the vehicle kaboom, once again some of the box. No protection is possible. Because what? Because Ukraine has better technologies against the Russian army. This is crazy. By the way, this is kind of the rare one. A Russian MRAP Tiger, also with electronic warfare on the top. Most of the Tigers were kaputted in 2022, 2023, then Russia sent many of them to Ukraine. In this video I want to show you the Russian tactics and how they counteract the drone threat. So here they go on all-terrain vehicle. And they spotted the drone. Actually, it's the convoy, you see? Some of them are walking, some of them are riding. But the drone is flying, just a single one. And you see, they drop the smoke grenades. And they start to shoot to the drones. Or drone. There was a single small drone, later on you'll see. It's very interesting, the wind blows from the left to the right here in this image, but they're staying at the open part, so why not to hide into the smoke? Very strange. One more smoke grenade. And they continue to shoot the drone. And here the drone is flying. The drone was really slow here. It went on top, it was like curving, so it was easy to intercept it with a shotgun. You see, it went down with the fire. And it kaboomed even, so yeah, the interceptions like that are happening, but it was just a single drone. But usually there are many more, and Ukrainian drone operator thought that Russians were hiding in the smoke clouds, yeah, but Russians were staying just on the road, being exposed outside of the smokes. So was it their intention to trick Ukrainian drone operator? Well, I'm not sure, but of course for them it's better to hide in the smoke and not be that exposed and visible. Nevertheless, they stayed on the road, and the downside of this thing is that they attract more attention. So all of the drone operators in the area, they saw the smoke, something is happening there, let's go and check. So eventually it may play a good role to hide forces, infantry, but later on, not really. So they survived for some time. And guys, you probably do not remember this video, but I remember it. Let's watch it.
Да, это беспилотник. Да блин, где ты там?
It was like yesterday. But it was actually a long time ago. I will explain you what is here.
Да нет, конечно. Не вижу. Не вижу.
Kind of the poor camera job. Yes, it was the first Russian refinery that was hit exactly 4 years ago. This is the Novoshakhtinsky oil refinery, and the Ukraine used Migun-5 China-made drone for this strike. 4 years ago, my friends, actually June 22nd, 2022, so 4 years plus 2 days ago, yeah? But this is a remarkable 4 years of the long-range strikes. Before Ukraine didn't have any sort of the drone production. I remember, however, purchasing Mavics for surveillance, for the grenade drops, later on there were FPVs, and after that Ukraine changed the strategy and started to invest more in the drone production, but Russia was the first actually. In cooperation with Iran, and now they have factories where they produce Giran 2 drones independently from Iran, but Ukraine chased and overcome Russia in those technologies. Now Ukraine has an absolute zoo of those drones, one for the specific purpose, and Russia still remains with its Shahid drones, and there is no willing from the Russian Defense Ministry to produce something else, something more superb or something more better in performance. Plus technologies, also Ukraine has the access to allied market, to European, American one, plus many others, including Asian markets and China. Ukraine continue to cooperate with some of the factories in China via the third countries, third companies. That's the difference between Russia and Ukraine. But Russia has direct contracts with China, Ukraine doesn't have that, but Ukraine still has the China-made spare parts. So one more anniversary, 4 years of the long-range strikes on the Russian territory. Congratulations. Well, with drones, I mean, because missiles were launched even before. Alright, it seems like we have a new drone compilation from Code 9.2 drone unit of Ukraine, and they show how they work at the front lines and further away, demolishing Russian supply vehicles, all-terrain vehicles, Bukhanka vans, Ural trucks, mostly with the same drones in auto mode, you see. They define the targets, like our drone operators, they see the target and they go with auto mode, and drone goes on its own, and the electronic warfare doesn't work in this case. Simply you can jam the connection, yes, but drone uses its own cameras to follow the target and to nail it. So simply there is no electronic warfare that is capable to jam the drone itself. It may be microwave cannon, something like that. But in most of the cases, all of the strikes are pretty much successful, as you may see here. Fantastic job. Oh, this is the blue targeting. It's something really different. Kind of nice. Looks like the video game, but actually it's not like that, really. I haven't seen this compilation so far, and the video is kind of long and very fast changing targets. Yeah guys, it's just crazy. You see how effective this drone unit really is, because they have good equipment and also experience to operate those drones. This is fantastic what the Ukrainian army does. Russians, they don't have this kind of the technology, and Ukraine has an upper hand. That's why Russians are moving very slowly on the front lines. And basically it's uncomparable with their advancements back in 2025. This is complete demolition of the Russian, first of all, supplies, and not only, also their forces right at the front lines. Fantastic job, fantastic operation, and technologies help Ukraine a lot. So thank you so much for all of the allies who cooperate with Ukraine providing those technologies, plus Ukraine also develops them. So there's the cooperation ongoing, and those technologies could be shared later on to our allies who might use them in case of the military confrontations, probably with Russia in the future. Hopefully not. Hopefully all of the rumors about the Russian new military operations, they're fake and they will not happen, but the probability is still out there. So Ukraine helps its allies as well, and that is how it should be done. Oh, that's the Russian drone boat that was captured by Ukrainian TB2 Bayraktar. Yes, those are still flying, and I personally know people who fly Bayraktar drones. They're my mates, and they performed this kind of the job just yesterday night, kabooming one of the Russian drone boats. And basically it's the usual boat with some of the remote controls, communication, and the payload. It was stopped not that far away from Ukrainian Odessa port. Yes, Russia has drone boats, but they're not that advanced compared to Ukrainian drone boats. Ukraine developed several of the generations of the drone boats equipped with up-to-date communication systems, like, for example, Starlink and also European analogs. Yeah, it's the blurred image. This Russian says that there is the strike on Orenburg gas facility. Some of the flames are visible on the video, and yeah, it's blurred for purpose by Russians themselves. Just not to define the particular location, but NASA firm satellites, they show everything. Yeah, this is Orenburg Enterprise, and it went on fire. The distance from Ukrainian border is more than 1,000 kilometers, and it's not just the gas processing facility, also it's the chemical plant, chemical factory that is used to produce, for example, powder components. So Ukraine hits not just the Russian supplies, but the entire chain of the Russian also military production. Like it happened just recently with that semiconductor factory in Voronezh that was kaboomed by 3 of the Storm Shadow or Scalp missiles. Fantastic job. It is really outstanding, guys. The best of the best operation possible. Yeah, here we have the better image from Orenburg, this huge gas facility, absolutely enormous, and definitely there is the fire ongoing. A special Kherson Cat tweets about it. So the Russian Orenburg gas processing plant was targeted in a drone attack. Yes. With a processing capacity up to 45 billion cubic meters of gas per year, it is one of the largest gas processing facilities in Russia and is estimated to account for roughly a quarter of the country's total gas processing capacity. So 25% of all of the gas processing capacity was there. Plus, it's the chemical plant that is producing some of the components, as I told you, for the Russian military production. And by the way, about this Moscow's refinery that was kaboomed the last week, officially it stopped the operation till 2027, so at least half a year it's not gonna be working absolutely. So Russians will continue to experience fuel shortages even in Moscow city and Moscow Oblast, because it was the very big one, and for the single day Russia lost half of the refining capabilities in Moscow region. This is crazy, but that is how Ukraine dictates its will. The other thing that Russia doesn't want to stop, they don't want to ceasefire, and even Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov today stated that Russia doesn't agree to freeze the war at the current front line. Well, we'll see how successful they are on the front lines. They just may go with the small infiltration attacks, sometimes taking very, very small portions of the ground, and it's all happening very, very slowly, and still there is no understanding from the Russian regime that they are not winning this war. They still don't want to ceasefire, they don't want to negotiate, and they force Ukraine to surrender from Donbass. When in reality, Russia doesn't have the military leverage to dictate everything of that. Ukraine is not at the brink of collapse. Ukraine keeps the front lines secured mainly. Ukraine strikes Russian logistics. Ukraine causes significant losses for Russia. And Russia is not, for example, encircling Kyiv city. And then it was near Kyiv in 2022. Even back then, Ukraine did not agree on Russian demands, and they want to force Ukraine to capitulate right now. Like, this is silly, this is stupid, and even Russian military bloggers are saying about that. Meanwhile, Kremlin spokesman confirms that Russia is completely out of reality. According to him, the situation for Ukraine deteriorates at the front line, and it's getting worse with every day. And I'm reviewing the front lines for the last 4 years. I don't see this deterioration. The last year I saw that Russia was really successful in Gulay-Pole, for example. They tried to counterattack in the Berpila direction from Pokrovsk. Yeah, later on they finally occupy Pokrovsk, and now the fight is ongoing for Konstantinivka. But if we speak about the square kilometers Russia is capable to capture, no, Ukraine has an advantage, really, netto. Ukraine liberates more territories compared to what Russia manages to occupy. So the crisis is out there for Russian army, not for Ukraine. Ukraine is actually, with the new reforms, Ukraine develops its army. There's the new wave, the second breath, I would say, that brings more positivity and hope. And finally, Putin will be stopped physically. So he wouldn't be able even to say that Russia is winning. No, Russian army will have to stop completely, freeze, halt, or even to lose territories. Yeah, those are the usual queues to the gas station. Those are very, 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 very big. And it is not even occupied Crimea. This is Krasnodar region of the Russian Federation. So this guy is probably a truck driver. He says that he's in shock. In Samara, the diesel price is 140-150 rubles per ton. So it will cost 200 rubles at the gas stations. So first of all, using density, the conversion from tons into liters, and later on, they also put some extra, so 200 rubles per 1 liter. That's the estimate price he says we should expect in Samara region. And Samara is really far away. And in those bordering regions with Ukraine, there is absolutely devastating fuel crisis. The fuel is basically absent in occupied regions and also in Russian Rostov region. Yeah, this is the economy and commercial catastrophe for Russia, and that adds more to the economic crisis, which Russia still experiences. Stagflation, so-called. And one more Russian sphere is impacted by long-range strikes of Ukraine. This is aviation. A Russian Azimuth Airlines announces a critical situation for its survival because they don't have enough cost to cover extra prices for the jet fuel, which is now very hard to obtain, and the prices are skyrocketing. And it is touching not just the smaller airlines, but also the bigger ones. And for Russia, aviation is critical. It's not like Ukraine. Ukraine has good train connection. Ukraine has more or less okay roads. And in general, Ukraine is way smaller compared to Russia. But for Russia, aviation is critical. It's the blood of the Russian economy. Transport. Russia is huge. Russia simply cannot sustain itself without transportation, especially aviation transportation. That's why it's very, very critical for Russia. And again, it's one more hit for that industry. It deteriorates the situation with the Russian economy. Yeah, Russia is definitely desperate. Russia asks Kazakhstan for gasoline to ease shortages, sources say. So Kazakhstan has its own refineries, and of course Ukraine will not hurt them, but the question goes whether Kazakhstan is ready to cooperate with Russia. Maybe yes. After all, they're in the same alliance, military one and also economic, so maybe Kazakhstan might help Russia after all. As well as Russia receives support from Belarus. Well, Kazakhstan, I wouldn't put it under the question. I think they will help, but Kazakhstan also relies on China cooperation. So they depend on Russia, but not as much as on China. However, Russia and China, they are cooperating. So Kazakhstan will help Russia, I'm sure about it. For now, Russia asked just about 50,000 tons from Kazakhstan of gasoline due to fuel shortages. Reuters reports about it, yes. Gasoline production in Russia fell by 25%, I think even more. Also, you know that there is the memorandum which is approved by Donald Trump and the Iranian side and Pakistan. So the oil prices are dropping and they cross $75 per barrel. But at the same time, Russia experiences the rise of the fuel prices because of the shortages. And of course, Ukrainian kinetic sanctions, which are working the best against the Russian oil market. Yeah, for VTI it's $70 per barrel, and for Brent 73.7. Absolutely superb achievement by Donald Trump and Iran altogether. The war shouldn't have been started first of all, Donny, but at least like this. At least the outcome is not the total ground war in the very terrible geographical conditions of Iran. Yeah. So then the war had started in February, March. The fuel prices, they went up to the record numbers for the last few years, and now they're dropping down, which is a good trend for Ukraine and not that great for Russia. And Russia had the chance to sell more of the oil to fill its budget, but because of the lack in the air defense systems, Ukraine managed to sanction several of the Russian ports, like for example in Ust-Luga, Novorossiysk and Primorsk and many others. Yeah, so Russian export dropped significantly, and for them the level is kind of similar, but with the lower prices and already limited capabilities for Russia to export oil, Russia finds itself in bigger deficit compared to what it was in February-March. And the good thing that Ukraine continued those strikes on Russian logistics, Russian oil infrastructure, only that is how Putin might stop and agree on some of the ceasefire, and Ukraine will just wait for the Russia collapse in this case, for Russian regime to disappear. For Putin it's very risky actually to stop the war, that's why he is using all of the possible resources to continue it. But physically it's impossible to do it for a very long time, let's say without absolutely crazy mobilization in Russia and putting the entire economy of Russia on the war rails, which is partially out there already. But of course that would destroy Putin's regime. Well guys, it's all for this video, but stand by for one more and please support my job on Patreon, the link for it is in the video description right below. Or you may support me on membership of the channel by pressing button join if you watch me on YouTube. And my friends, don't forget to press your like to this video and subscribe for the channel, it is very important. Thank you guys, you're amazing, and I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.